for today's activity, I already prepared here the ingredients that is needed to create the recipe of pandesal. So what we needed the most is the all-purpose flour, bread flour, white sugar, butter which is melted already, the baking powder, the fresh milk, the rapid rice yeast, the salt, breadcrumbs, and here is the raw egg, and lastly is the cooking oil. Before we proceed to the cooking procedure, let's measure, of course, the ingredients that is needed in order to have an appropriate measurement of the following ingredients, which is suited to the recipe that we are going to create. So first is the all-purpose flour. Within this ingredient, we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So to measure all-purpose flour, I'm going to use this cup, equivalent to 1 cup or 250 ml. So I'm going to fill it already. To have exactly a 1 cup of all-purpose flour, we need to don't stir it but use a flat edge of any equipment in order to measure it appropriately. So I'm going to label with the use of this flat edge tools or equipment. So here is 1 cup. And for the another 1 cup, I'm going to measure again. And then label it again. And that's it. Here is the exact measurement of 2 all-purpose flour. Now I have here the bread flour. So we also need 2 cups of it. So I'm going to measure exactly 2 cups of bread flour. The same with the process that I've done with the all-purpose flour. So I'm going also to use 1 cup. Okay, let's label it off. And let's do it again to achieve the correct measurement of 2 cups of bread flour. Label it off. Now we're going to measure 1/2 cup of white sugar. So here is the 1/2 cup. Then I'm going to use a spoon in order to scoop it into the 1/2 cup. Now I'm going to scoop the white sugar into the cup. Just fill the 1/2 cup of sugar in order to measure it appropriately. And label it off. And then here is the exact measurement of 1/2 cup of sugar. Next, I'm going to measure the butter that is melted. So in butter, we needed 5 tablespoons of it. So here is the 1 tablespoon equivalent to 15 ml. Then let's scoop it here. Now here is exactly equivalent of 1 tablespoon. So indeed, we need 5 tablespoons of the melted butter. So just continue doing this process. Now we are going to measure the baking powder, where we need 1 teaspoon of it. So here is the 1 teaspoon. Measuring baking powder is the same also with the process of all-purpose flour and the baking powder, where we needed a straight edge or flat edge tools that is going to be used in order to label it off. Now, here is the exact measurement of 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So we are going to measure the milk, wherein we needed 1 1/4 cup of it. So here is the 1 cup and the 1/4 cup. So firstly, I'm going to scoop 1 cup into the milk. Now, here is the exact measurement of 1 cup. So still, we needed another cup, which is 1/4. So for 1/4 cup, here is the cup that is needed for the 1/4. Now, let's scoop it again. Now, here is the exact measurement for 1/4 cup of milk. So, this is the exact measurement for 1 1/4 cup of milk. Now, I have here the rapid rise yeast. So, we are going to measure it with the use of 1 teaspoon of measuring spoon, and the another one is the 1/4 teaspoon. Now, let's scoop it in. Now here's the 1 teaspoon. So we still need another one of it. So let's scoop it again. And lastly, for 1/4 teaspoon, we are going to use this measuring spoon. So we scoop it in, the same with the first process. So here is the exact amount of 1/4 teaspoon. So now here is the exact measurement for 1 pouch or 2 1/4 teaspoon of rapid rise yeast. I have here the salt, wherein I'm going to use an iodized salt. So for salt, we are going to measure 1 teaspoon of it. So here is again the 1 teaspoon measuring spoon. So I'm going to scoop it in, just like this. So here is the exact 1 teaspoon of salt. We're going to transfer it here. And here is the 1 teaspoon of salt. I have here the breadcrumbs. So for breadcrumbs, we are going to measure 1 cup of it. So here is the 1 cup. So let's scoop it with the use of spoon. So along with spoon, transfer it into the 1 cup. Just continue doing the same process in order to fill in the cup. So in order to have exact amount of it, let's use a flat edge in order to measure it appropriately. So let's level it off. And here is the exact amount of 1 cup breadcrumbs. So in creating pandesal, we need an egg. So I have here the 1 piece of egg in order to create the said recipe. Now I have here the cooking oil, which is the last ingredient that is needed in creating the recipe of pandesal. So we need 1 tablespoon of cooking oil. So let's scoop it in the 1 tablespoon measuring spoon into the cooking oil. Exactly, we have the 1 tablespoon of the cooking oil. Now, I have here the following ingredients that we are going to need in creating the pandesal. Now, here it is. Creating the pandesal, we are going to combine the yeast, so here it is, next is the sugar, lastly, the warm milk. Pour it into the yeast and the sugar. As we combine all of the ingredients, let's stir it until the yeast and sugar are fully dissolved. So with the use of spatula, I'm going to stir it to dissolve the ingredients that is mixed with the warm milk. Now, the yeast and the white sugar is now fully dissolved, so let's set it aside. In the mixing bowl, let's mix or combine the dry ingredients, starting from the flour, then the following ingredients, which is dry. So let's pour the flour into the mixing bowl. Now let's add the salt and also the baking powder. Until we mix all of the dry ingredients, let's mix it well by stirring. Stir it properly to mix well all of the dry ingredients. Now, as we mix all of the dry ingredients, let's add the egg. Let's add the butter also. Let's add the cooking oil. Now, let's add the mixture of yeast, sugar, and milk in the mixing bowl with the dry ingredients, then mix it again until a dough is formed. Now, let's pour it into the mixture that we are currently doing. Now, as we completely add all of the ingredients along with the dry ingredients, let's mix it well to fully combine all of it. Now, let's continue mixing it. After we mix it completely, let's use our clean hands to effectively mix all of the ingredients. Now, let's use our hands to fully mix all of the ingredients. In a flat surface like this, we are going to knead the dough until the texture becomes more fine. For faster and easier kneading, you may use a stand mixer with dough rack. So, we are going to use this surface to knead the dough. Before we knead the dough, let's put or spread some flour into the flat surface to achieve a great texture. Now continuously mold the dough to achieve the best texture or to become more fine. Now mold the dough into shape, becomes round. Then, let's put back in a mixing bowl. Cover the mixing bowl with damp cloth and let the dough rise for at least 1 hour. Now, let's put it in the mixing bowl again. Now, with the use of damp cloth, let's cover the mixing bowl in order to make it rise at least 1 hour. Now, let's set it aside. Now, after 1 hour, let's see the result if the dough already rises. Yes, it rises. Now, let's put the dough back to the flat surface and divide it into 4 equal parts using a dough slicer. So since I don't have any dough slicer, I am going to use another flat edge to cut it into pieces. So here is the flat edge that I'm going to use. So first, let me knead it again. Now, let's cut it using Now, roll each part into it to form a cylindrical shape. Now that we already rolled each part into a cylindrical shape, let's slice the cylindrical dough diagonally. So these slices will be the individual pieces of the pandesal. Now, we should roll the sliced dough over the breadcrumbs and place in a baking tray with wax paper. Now that we're done coating the pandesal with the breadcrumbs, let's leave the sliced dough with breadcrumbs in a tray for another 10 to 15 minutes in order for it to rise. Now, preheat the oven for at least 375 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 10 minutes. Now let's put the dough into the oven for at least 15 minutes. Now, turn off the oven and let's get the new leaf or the freshly baked pandesal. Now, I have here the following measured ingredients that we are going to use in creating our next product, which is ensaymada. So, for our first ingredient, which is all-purpose flour, and it is measured for 5 cups. Next is the butter, which is melted. Here is our butter, measured 3/4 cup. Next is our sugar. Now here is the sugar, which is measured also for 3/4 cups. Next is the salt. Here is our salt, which is measured 1 teaspoon. Next is our grated cheese. Here is our grated cheese, which is measured for 1 cup. Next is our raw eggs. So here are our raw eggs, which is 3 pieces. Next is the rapid yeast or rapid rice yeast. So here is our rapid rice yeast, which is measured 1 pouch or 2 1/4 teaspoon. And lastly, our milk, which is warm and fresh. So our milk is measured 1 cup. Now let's proceed to our procedures in creating our product. So first procedure is combine warm milk with the yeast and the 1/2 cup of sugar. So let's put it into the warm water. Next is our sugar. Once it is putted into our warm milk, let's stir the yeast and the sugar to dissolve it into the milk. Okay, just continue stirring it in order for it to dissolve, mostly the yeast. Let's dissolve the yeast properly. Now that it is totally dissolved, let's set it aside for the yeast to activate approximately 10 minutes. Now for our second procedure, here is our mixing bowl together with our flour. So in this mixing bowl, combine all of the dry ingredients starting from the flour, sugar, and the salt. Then mix it thoroughly. Put the dough on a flat surface and flatten. Punch the dough lightly to release the air inside. A dough slicer, divide the dough into 4 pieces. Roll each piece until shape becomes cylindrical. Cut the cylindrical dough into individual serving pieces. 1 serving pieces should weigh at least 80 grams. Put the sliced individual serving piece in a flat surface and flatten using a rolling pin. Combine the 1/4 cup of melted butter with the 1/4 cup white sugar. Using a brush, paint the mixture on a flattened dough. Make sure to paint only the center part of the flat dough. Sprinkle some cheese over the painted area. Then seal the dough by folding opposite directions and rolling it until a long cylindrical shape is formed, about 14 inches in length. Forming the spiral and saimada shape by crossing the 2 opposite ends of the dough. The first end should be placed under dough, while the other end should be inserted in the middle. Place the dough in a baking tray with wax paper and cover it with cloth. Set aside to rise for another 45 minutes. Now for today's recipe, we are going to create egg tart. So in creating egg tart, I have here the following ingredients that we are going to use. These ingredients are now measured appropriately. So first ingredient for creating our dough is the 2 cups of flour and the 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I have here 2 pieces of dairy cream, which is the unsalted butter. But still, we needed 2 cups of unsalted butter, so I'm still going to measure it appropriately. Now to prepare our dough, let's start mixing our dry ingredients, starting with the flour and the sugar, of course. Here is our 2 tablespoons of sugar. And now let's pour it into our 2 cups of flour. Next, let's put, of course, our 2 cups of unsalted butter into our mixture. Now that we already have our unsalted butter into our mixture, now let's mix it to combine it well. Let's mix the batter cubes into our flour. Using a pastry blender, cut in the batter. Without any use of pastry blender, or the pastry blender is unavailable, you can also use 2 knives or else 2 forks in order to fully crush or to fully cut it into pieces and make our unsalted butter dissolved within our mixture. Now that our batter or the mixture was fully dissolved with each other and mixed with each other, we should now proceed on the kneading process and to fully combine our mixture. Now let's put our mixture or our dough into a flat surface in order to mix it well. But first, let's spread or add some flour into our board or our flat surface. Now let's put it into the flat surface. Combine our dough together. Now that our dough is fully combined with each other, now let's place it in a plastic, or let's put our dough into a plastic. So here is my plastic that I'm going to use. So let's put our dough into it to cover it properly. Now let's put our dough into refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. Now that we are currently refrigerating our dough, let's prepare our filling. So make the filling while waiting for the dough, of course. In our hot water, which is 2 cups, we are going to dissolve our 1 cup of sugar and let it cool, okay? Now let's put our sugar into it and let's dissolve it first. Now let's dissolve it into our hot water. Now that our sugar is fully dissolved, let's now start beating our sugar. Now let's set it aside and let's beat our egg. Now, I have here my 6 eggs, but I still have 2 eggs which is not broken. So I'm going to crack it into the already cracked egg. So, gently crack our egg and pour it into our mixing bowl. Now here is our 6 eggs in a bowl. So let's beat it properly to mix it well. Now that our egg is fully mixed, let's now add our 1 cup evaporated milk in the egg as well as the vanilla extract, which is 2 teaspoons. And also, don't forget to add our dissolved sugar. So now I'll be putting our evaporated milk. Next, let's put our 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And also our dissolved sugar. Now let's mix it well. Mix it appropriately in order for our mixture to fully combine with each other. Now that our filling mixture is now fully combined, let's set it aside first and let's now bake our tart. After 30 minutes of refrigerating our dough, let's knead it first with the use of our flour board. And after kneading our dough, refrigerate it again for another 30 minutes or can be overnight. After 30 minutes of refrigerating our dough, let's now cut it into individual pieces, and then we can now roll out the chilled dough, then cut it into circle just as the sides of our molds. Then place the cut dough into the mold ready for pouring the filling. So now let's cut first our dough. So since I don't have any sharp equipment, then I'm going to use this flat edge in order to cut our dough into pieces or individual pieces. Now after cutting our dough, let's now proceed into rolling out or making it thin. Now that we are already done placing our rolled dough into our molder, we can now put any design, or we can use the process of crimping or the crimping process in order to make styles within our dough. Now, after placing some designs in it, it is now ready for pouring our filling. Now, we can now put our filling into our dough. So to put our mixture into our dough, I'm going to use 1 cup in order to fill it with the filling. Now that we're done pouring our filling or the mixture into our dough, we can now bake it for at least 30 minutes. The time may vary, so constant should be done until the filling is set or done fully.